Good morning, guys. Welcome back to another video. Man, it's so funny. Starting this video, it's just giving me weird vibes because your girl is going to a place called Orania. Most of you probably heard. It's all white town.
I'm standing in the middle of nowhere in a whole other continent because 2 hours away there is a town, although small in size, has sent shockwaves through the entire internet.
Orania is a whites-only town.
So if you clicked on this video, you know that we are going to be investigating Orania, the only all-white town in South Africa.
I'm in love with Orania.
Yeah.
Can I stay in here?
You're not African.
After a very long drive, I finally made it to Orania to do a follow-up of my last documentary. And this time, I've brought a very special friend.
What it means is he brought a very special black friend.
Let the fun and games begin.
I was reading Will Tanner's fantastic article in Islander 6 called Orania and the Estate, and it sent me down a really interesting rabbit hole. I discovered an entire genre of video, which I suppose can just be described as black YouTubers visiting Orania. If you don't know, Orania is an Afrikaner-only town of about 3,000 people, located roughly in the centre of South Africa, located on the banks of the Orange River in the Karoo Desert. It was founded in 1991 with the express goal of being a place where Afrikaans people live, that is, the descendants of Dutch settlers who arrived in South Africa in the 1600s. Before we watch what the black YouTubers discovered here, however, it's worth getting some context for Orania and South Africa more broadly. South Africa has an estimated population of about 63 million people, the overwhelming majority of which are black African, at 82%. The mixed race percentage is 8%, the Asian population is less than 3%, and the white population is about 7%. The Afrikaners constitute about 4% of the white population, with the rest being mostly the descendants of English settlers. Post-apartheid South Africa has many, many problems. It has an unemployment rate of about 33%, with most of those being young people, and this itself is a source of a huge culture of poverty, welfare dependence, and criminality. This also gives the country zero economic growth, and informs the country's political landscape. Out of the 63 million people in South Africa, it has only 14.2 million registered income taxpayers, but about 5.9 of those have a taxable income below the income tax threshold, which means there are only about 8.3 million people who are actually paying personal income tax. That's 13% of the population, which is paying 845 billion rands of tax, which is way above the 521 billion rands the state collects from VAT and the 364 billion rands it collects from corporate income tax. As the Daily Investor put it, only 645,000 individuals pay half of all income tax in South Africa. However, it gets worse. These individuals are also the ones running the companies which pay the most corporate income tax in South Africa. This means that around 1% of people in South Africa are responsible for most of the tax revenue the state collects. Rampant criminality is a persistent problem across the country. In 2026, in the first 3 months alone, police recorded 5,181 murders. That is an insane number, and doesn't capture the myriad other petty crimes that plague the country. Needless to say, South Africa has a booming private security industry, and every worthwhile community is gated and guarded. There are something like 43,000 rapes reported each year, a figure which is expected to be dramatically underreported, and I doubt that even a vague estimate of the number of muggings and robberies is possible. You will also be familiar with the farm murders that happen in South Africa, which appear to be racially motivated despite what the government says, and are carried out with a level of brutality that it's just difficult to comprehend. I'm not going to cover them here, but you can find other videos that go into detail on what the black criminals who are attacking white-owned farms have done, and it's utterly stomach-churning. The state is weak and corrupt. The government is controlled by the majority black population through the ANC, which is itself highly corrupt. It is widely distrusted, and the persistent theft from public funds drains public services and grinds infrastructure projects to a halt. Local governments are no less corrupt, and fail to collect revenue or employ competent personnel to maintain their municipalities. The roads, water and sewage systems and power grid all fall into disrepair, and this makes South Africa look as if it's returning to nature. Struggling with the basic amenities of a modern state has been a hallmark of South African life for the past decade. And finally, there is the institutionalized and politically represented issue of anti-white hatred that is embedded in the country's population, democracy, and laws. South Africa is the only country in the world with affirmative action laws for the majority, and recently the Parliament passed a law which allows the government to appropriate land from white people without compensation. You are probably familiar with Julius Malema and the Economic Freedom Fighters, a genocidal race communist party that has 1 million members and 39 out of the 400 seats in the National Assembly.
Alliance shoot to kill Gamaza, kill the poor, the farmer, kill the poor, the farmer. Brr, pa, pa, brr, pa, pa. Attention.
His famous shoot the Boer chants are apparently not hate speech, by the way, because he's black. There is clearly a strong undercurrent of racial resentment in a substantial portion of the black population. And liberals can't explain why a segregated community, away from the apparent end-of-history harmony of the Rainbow Nation, has sprung up in a remote desert location, miles from anywhere else. But we can. In his article, Tanner explains what Orania is, how it came to be, and why the people there do what they do. It is an Afrikaners only town in South Africa, which is, of course, against the constitution and founding ethos of South Africa, the modern nation state. The coat of arms of South Africa translates to something like, diversity is our strength, and Orania is a strident repudiation of that. But we'll come back to the article a bit later. When you put Orania against the background of incompetent and highly racialized black majority rule, it becomes easy to see why Afrikaners might well want a town of their own that is independent and self-sufficient. They don't want the crime, corruption, violence, and incompetence of the wider country. They want a place that works for them. It's entirely likely that the future of the West will mirror the history of South Africa, and this will become a model for other communities in the future. Already in America and Britain, there are seeds of white-only towns beginning to take root, as mass immigration and demographic displacement create a psychological need for an environment which provides what the native white communities want, rather than our countries being the facsimile of a new frontier for immigrants to colonize. In South Africa, there are of course plenty of towns which have 0 white people in them. You can look at the 2011 census data to find places with 100% black African populations. They tend not to have paved roads and be places of high unemployment, such as Kakawana or Badimong. Nobody complains about the lack of ability for whites to move to such places, of course. Anyway, the videos from the black YouTubers all follow a familiar pattern. They document their arrival, they're surprised at seeing how nice it is, then they spend time interviewing random people and trying to get them to say something racist. By the end of their visit, they're pleasantly surprised that everyone was so nice, and leave by trying to square the circle of why they ought not to approve of Orania, but can't bring themselves to condemn something that has been built through hard work and a shared commitment. So I thought we'd watch along together about the journey of these black YouTubers. No, they're all separate. Arriving at Orania and how they found it. This is going to be a compilation of clips of them arriving, and we'll talk about their reactions afterwards.
It's very pleasant, isn't it? It's like Center Parks on steroids. There was a big statue.
That is Hendrik Verwoerd, the architect of apartheid.
Yeah.
Bro, like, literally they have everything in here. Wow. I made it to Orania, And believe me or not, this is not the Orania that I was expecting. Because when I got here, I found a country within South Africa.
So all of this is Orania right
Yep.
here. Oh, wow. Like a real
No,
town.
it's not a massive town, you know, but everything is here.
This is giving Amish, guys. It's giving Amish. Secluded. Yeah.
But it looks very Afrikaans. Big cars, Orania flag, doors are just open, no gates. There is a statue of Hendrik Verwoerd, the architect of apartheid. Okay, there's kids. Kids are just walking around. They're kids just walking around. So it's definitely as safe as people think it is. Bicycles is hanging up, not locked. It feels different. It really does feel different. You can feel that this is not, it's South Africa, but not South Africa.
Excuse me, do you know where the Orania Information Center is?
Just go in there, you can ask, are you here to see you at?
Oh, perfect, thank you. Hello. Everyone's nice, bro. Everyone's saying hello. People are helping me. I can't lie, it's not as bad as I thought it was gonna be.
What a remarkable compilation of arrivals there. Oh, they seem to have everything. This is a very nice looking town. It looks like it's flourishing. There are children running around, just playing and doing whatever they're doing, with no particular reason for them to feel afraid. People are even leaving their bicycles outside unlocked, and nobody is stealing them. Here's the architect of apartheid. All I'm saying is if you're marrying these things together, it might send a message. Maybe you don't need to have everything locked down. Seems to be the message that these arrivals are giving us. But why does it have to be the other way? Why is it that bikes are getting stolen all the time? Why is it that kids aren't safe to play in the streets? Why is it that the rest of the country doesn't look like this? Why is it that somebody isn't taking responsibility for the country that they have created after the fall of apartheid? Why is it that Orania has to exist separately for it to be a nice place? What I found really interesting about this is that the black YouTubers themselves felt like aliens when going into Orania. Now, that's not terribly surprising, but they had a very conscious feeling of being the only black in the village.
He just greeted me. Everyone's waving. Everyone is waving. Okay, that's confusing.
Are you nervous to go there and be the only black person in Orania?
Nervous is not the word. I think uncomfortable. But everyone has been telling me, stay safe, stay safe. I'm not scared at all. I've been in crazy places before, so I don't feel unsafe, but I feel it's going to be different and uncomfortable. And I love it.
Today is actually my first day waking up from Orania, and it was such a peaceful night, but it's kind of crazy to know that I'm the only black man in here. I mean, it's so crazy knowing that you just woke up in a white-only town.
Yeah, I probably haven't told you this, but since I've been here, I definitely have felt uneasy. I don't feel comfortable here. And I want to.
I'd be very surprised if you did feel comfortable here with the history this place has, being the only black guy in town.
So the question of race is still very much omnipresent in Orania, and this is not just from the black YouTubers themselves, but of course, as you saw there, from the people who live there. They're well aware of what South Africa is, and well aware that they are flouting the conventions of South Africa. But in order to have a place where they don't have to lock up their bicycles, that's what they feel they have to do. What's really interesting is one of these YouTubers pointed out that they went to South America and found a black-only town there. And the people in this black-only town explained why it was a black-only town and why white people weren't allowed to go there. And you're going to be shocked to learn it's the opposite reason of why there are only Afrikaner people living in Orania. As we see from the black YouTubers, they didn't feel threatened by anyone in Orania. In fact, everyone was really, really nice to them, and they found it a bit jarring that everyone is so peaceful, polite, and welcoming.
So recently I found myself in South America on a project of connecting Africans in the diaspora with Africans living in Africa. So I found myself in Suriname and I came across this village called Dahomey. And within Dahomey, no white person is allowed in this village. So out of curiosity, I was like, you know what? I need to go find out why no white person is allowed. I was told that no white people are allowed in this village. Is that true?
Yeah.
Why?
The spirit that they have here is a warrior spirit who fought against the European in the slavery time. And every time that the warrior spirit see white people, he get aggressive, so they want to fight. That's why they don't allow white people to come here.
What will happen if a white person comes here?
Death.
Right, that's a really interesting contrast, isn't it? You've got a black-only town where they don't allow white people because they will murder them on sight, because apparently they have a warrior spirit and can't control themselves. And you have a white-only town where they don't want to get murdered and would actually like to have a peaceful, productive, wholesome life. I just found that really, really interesting, that this dramatic difference in mindset existed between these two groups. I mean, if I was a cynical man, I might say that maybe one of these mindsets is informing the other. So all of these YouTubers ask the people of Orania, okay, well, what's this all about? Why are you here? Why are you doing this? What's the purpose of Orania? And the people who live and run Orania are more than happy to tell them.
That is the place where Afrikaners live. There, Afrikaners are a majority. And unfortunately, it's as simple as Afrikaners do not really have a home somewhere.
Right.
Instead of complaining or instead of being victims of the realities, we decided in Orania we are going to roll up our sleeves and build it ourselves.
Why do people come here?
For hope, and I think for safety as well. People want services that work. South Africa is ridden with corruption and crime. I'm not even going to lie about it. A lot of my customers, they don't even have running water. Things are not maintained. It's horrible. It's horrible.
And you feel that Orania is the answer?
I mean, Orania is the town for us to have our Afrikaner culture and to be able to live it out.
What we want, we already got to an extent. We want recognition. We want recognition from abroad, we want recognition locally, and we want recognition from our peers. That is to say, firstly, those people are a people upon themselves, and this, they have the right to make certain decisions for themselves. That is what we want. We don't want people's money, we don't want people's handouts. We as Orania want larger recognition, greater recognition. And I think that is not too much to ask. Actually, I think that's very reasonable.
And really, that does seem reasonable, doesn't it? It's hard to imagine why a people who are only 4% of the population of South Africa and are living under a series of racialized laws and are treated generally as essentially with a historic guilt about what they or their forefathers did to the majority of the country, how they can move forward into the future and thrive and prosper on their own terms. This seems like a perfectly reasonable way of actually making that happen. And what's also interesting is they don't portray Orania as some sort of paradise. They're the first to tell you, oh no, we have problems here. We are just like every other town everywhere else. It is just these are our own problems and not problems that the wider world has imposed on us.
People tend to describe Orania as the land of milk and honey. No crime, there's no crime, there's no potholes in Orania. That's not true. We do have our challenges. And we are people. Where you have people, you will find crime. And then there were some criminals in the past who were kicked out of Orania. However, I will say this, in stark contrast to many other South African cities, you will find in Orania cleaner streets, a safer environment, and that is due to three different things, I would say. Firstly, our vetting process. Secondly, professional, anti-corrupt or not corrupt establishment, professional people working in establishment that is not corrupt. And then thirdly is our homogeneous cultural community. We are here for the same goal, so we don't want to be a hassle for each other, be to each other's detriment there.
And again, it just seems really hard to be able to argue against that, doesn't it? You have to bring in abstract, very remote, liberal arguments of diversity, multiculturalism, in order to make the argument that no, actually, they shouldn't be allowed their own community. They're not their own people. They shouldn't be allowed their own community. And in fact, the things that they have built with their own hands somehow belong to everyone else. And it becomes very clear that this is the purpose of Orania for them. It is a place where they can have self-determination in an immediate sense, rather than, again, a much more abstract national sense. They want self-determination in their daily lives, and they want autonomy to whatever degree they can get it, but also independence from the failing infrastructure of South Africa. They want a place that works for them, and this is why they've got a massive solar farm, as we'll see.
What is the main reason why you establish your own solar farm, knowing that you live within South Africa?
The main reasons for Orania is that we want to be, from the start of Orania, we wanted to be independent on many levels. And one level is energy. Our energy, if you're not independent, you're not free.
So, firstly, because of the fact that we're saying we as a culture, no one is coming to save us, no one is going to build a future for us. What we want to build, we'll have to roll up our sleeves and build ourselves. And secondly, the fact that we do our own work is also represented in that. Our goal, our mission here is to preserve our culture, to build something for our culture, to preserve our religion. The question, oh, why can't a black person come here, is not the right question. It's more a question like a marriage between two people. It's an exclusive affair. Doesn't mean you're against anyone else. You take your wife, she's important to you.
Yep.
Or you know, and in your wedding, in your marriage, you're exclusive. Doesn't mean it's not built on hate. It's built on love for our culture. We want to preserve our culture. We want to preserve our traditions, our faith, our language. These are the things that we want to preserve.
It's hard to frame that in a way that's unreasonable unless you feel somehow entitled to the fruits of someone else's labour. They are actually building it manually themselves. They are not taking government money. They are raising the capital themselves. They are taking the risks themselves. They are actually investing and doing the labour themselves. So actually it gives them the strongest possible argument that no, this is for us and not for everyone else. What a great example to the rest of us, frankly. And the thing is, after having watched so many videos of YouTubers going to Orania, I've heard them explain this in many different ways over the spread of what I've watched. But it's always the same theme. It's always, look, we just want to be independent, self-sufficient. This is the way that we think life is best lived, and we would like to live it. And so what they did is bought a patch of desert that the South African government was selling because it was completely unproductive and it was being squatted on, and they turned it into something that everyone seems to be quite jealous of. In fact, one of the things that has been really funny about this is clearly they get a lot of YouTubers going to Orania, and in fact they start seem tired of getting so many YouTubers going there.
The guy who's supposed to be giving us a tour said that he's tired of YouTubers and he went to go speak with the media people. So let's go see.
So Orania is not just a place, it's an idea. It's kind of like Zionism for Afrikaners. And the leader of the movement is a guy called Dr. Karel Boshoff. And there are plenty of interviews with him where he explains just the philosophy behind Orania. And it is in objection to the modern homogenizing concept of the nation state. Because as they keep pointing out, well, if we can't have our separate identities, then surely we can't actually have diversity.
I would argue that this community called the Afrikaners has the need and the right to have a home as well.
And where I'm going to is, this place scares me, right? I always worry when Afrikaners talk about a homeland. I don't know whether we can trust you.
Yeah.
Do you want to see South Africa that's together? That's one nation.
In one nation, the moment we are entering on this modernist concept of national unity, especially in terms of a multicultural population, we are entering into the domain of social engineering.
But it works in other countries. I live in the UK. It's very multicultural.
Oh yeah, what a brilliant example to bring up. Britain, that currently has race riots whenever a foreigner commits a mass atrocity. Yeah, I don't think Britain is actually a great example because the British people never wanted immigration. We never voted for it. It's been imposed upon us. And at the moment, this is the massive rift in British politics. How we can reduce the number of foreigners in the country. But yeah, no, Britain's a brilliant example of this. But anyway, of course, over and over and over, the question is asked, is Orania racist? Well, the people of Orania don't think so. They think it's actually completely normal for them to be a discrete people, a separate people, and actually build a town of their own. And again, I find myself not really being able to disagree with that.
The Orania model is a model of cultural preservation, and that is not racist. So you might disagree with me, but my personal belief, my honest belief, is that the Orania model is not racist at all. It is, however, a model to preserve something that we hold dear and to create a future where we can live our values, our religion, our language, and share our culture.
Who are the people that are not allowed in here?
Well, Afrikaners live here. Afrikaners live here. Afrikaners who embrace the idea of own labor, we embrace our freedom ideals. This is who lives here.
What we are doing is not defining the exclusion. We are defining the inclusion. We are defining those matters that attract people to Orania. There's nowhere in our statute something that says because, or if you are black, or if you are Muslim, or if you are this or that. We have been sort of defined quite clearly. The perception is that we try to keep other people out. Wow, can we not address that perception?
You try to bring people in.
We try to yeah, exactly.
For us, the future is this guy. He's getting ready to work. He's rolling up his sleeves because he must work. He understands that no one is going to create your future for you. If you are scared about the future, and Afrikaners might be scared about the future, take control of it. I told you I'll give you a bit of a bird's eye view. You got the community all over there.
Yeah.
Then you have the main part of town here.
Yeah.
And you can see the trees. Over here you've got a church. You've got Orania's bank over there.
I'm very amazed at this place. I'm not going to lie to you guys.
And to put more perspective on this thing that you said about, you know, the common perception of just racism and so on, it brings back to the fact that Orania is inherently a model. This is our place, but we want to share the idea further so that more people can embrace that.
While South Africa just descends into chaos, I gotta admit and put my hands up to it, this place seems to be thriving. It's doing all right, and that's good for people like Marley and her family. But there is something that just bothers me. Anywhere else in the world, and this might seem strange, but anywhere else in the world where there's this gathering of an all-white community, I don't think I would be as bothered about it as I am when it's in South Africa.
First of all, when I first got here, I talked about how before I came, everyone was saying, oh, I was gonna die, this is racism, it's a white-only town, you're getting this, that. But then I come here and everyone's very nice. Why is there a misconception online about this place being a racist town? Why is that?
Once the media established the narrative, the normal average man on the street have no other source of information than what was set out.
So you're trying to say that basically the media has manipulated the mass?
It's always been the case, not only on Orania.
That's true. That is true.
And my God, isn't that true? It's one of the reasons I'm making this video now. But what I find really, really interesting about this is there is not only I think their narratives about how, look, we just want our own thing where we can be ourselves authentically, preserve our culture, preserve our way of life, preserve our language and our heritage and our religion and our ideals of freedom. And we would just like to be left alone to build something that we have lawfully purchased with our own money and with our own time and labor. It's really hard to argue against that. And the YouTubers who are going there are also having a really difficult time arguing against that. But they can feel that there is a sense of exclusion. They are not welcome. Now, just to be clear, I'm not welcome there either. Like, I can't live in Orania. I'm not Afrikaans. It is not just about having white skin. It is also actually directly about being descended from the Dutch settlers who went to the Cape of Good Hope in the 1600s. It's not about being a certain colour. It's about having a certain lineage. And that yeah, leaves out a lot of people. And they really don't like it.
So we agree that being Afrikaner is not just your race, right?
Absolutely.
So if you and your wife had adopted a black child and you raised this black child as an Afrikaner from eendag until he's 21, technically is that kid not Afrikaans? Because you speak about culture.
Yeah.
Culturally, he should be Afrikaans. Would he be welcome into the town?
Hypothetically, it is exactly true, and hypothetically, yes. But we need to address that question when we meet it concretely. So the reality is the test.
Isn't it fascinating that you can't just take no for an answer on this? No, you're not allowed your particular thing where nobody else other than your own people are allowed to live there. Like I said, I can't go and live in Orania, but I haven't got any problem whatsoever with not being included in their project. In fact, I'm glad they've got their own little project, and I hope they do really, really well. I don't need to create esoteric hypotheticals to try and explain how an English kid might end up living in Orania. Why would I need to do this? And I think this is what the nub of the issue is. It is the exclusionary nature of the thing. Because, of course, if you're going to set boundaries on, okay, what are we trying to include here? Well, that will naturally exclude other things by definition. And this is anathema to the modern liberal order. How dare you a priori exclude X, Y, or Z people? And this is what all of liberal activism is against. This is what the transgender movement is about. This is what all of the multiculti and diversity and immigration movement is about. This is about making sure you can't have a thing of your own. And I'm sorry, I just really want those things of our own. We set the standards, we set what is and is not included, and we get the thing that is produced from it from our own labour. That seems eminently reasonable to me. Why on earth should we not be allowed this? South Africa's current Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture is an ex-criminal called Gayton Mackenzie, and he is very concerned about Orania. He's not happy that Orania is doing the right thing for the right reasons and getting good results. And he is, in fact, someone who opposes it, even though he can't help but admire the way that they got there. This is a clip of his opinion on it, and it just drives me mad.
Is Orania right? I don't think it's right. I don't think places like Orania should exist, number one. But I need to understand what is it about, and I'm sympathetic towards some of the things they told me. For instance, they said to me, the Afrikaner culture, they want to preserve the Afrikaner culture. But I speak Afrikaans. Afrikaans is my first language, and there's a war against Afrikaans. By the current politicians, hate Afrikaans, there's a war. And that's my first language, and the people I represent mostly speak Afrikaans. Now, if you're going to take Afrikaans, and there's people saying, we want to preserve the language. And I can't come with a counter-argument and say there's no attack on Afrikaans. It's that they're doing it for themselves. And that's the culture that we, as black people, need to learn fast and hard. They've got white domestic workers, they build that place. You look at Orania and jealous down. What is wrong with Orania for me is the racism thing. What is right is the fact that those people are building a city right in front of our eyes.
Well, that's a great question, isn't it? Why don't black people learn that lesson? If you're looking at Orania with envy and saying, well, hang on a second, why don't we have that? Well, why don't you have that? What's actually stopping the majority black population of South Africa from just knuckling down, doing the work, investing, not being corrupt, not committing crimes, and actually just building nice communities in which they want to live? It's really weird, isn't it? That they say, oh, look, we would like that. It's like, okay, well, then you have to behave in a certain way to end up with that. And if you can't bring yourself to behave in that way, why should you deserve that? And the answer is, of course, you don't deserve that. And this is why they end up abstracting to the level of the national government and to the multiculti liberal indoctrination in order to fabricate and justify a claim on Orania itself. And this is where I think Will Tanner's excellent article in Islander 6 really begins to make perfect sense out of the entire issue. I'll read a bit from it so you understand exactly what I mean. Will Tanner's article focuses around the concept of the estate. The estate is an economically self-sufficient organisation that does not depend on largesse or patronage from the central government, and has historically been the bulwark against excessive state overreach. Historically, we have considered these estates as an essential part of the checks and balances against centralised power that exists in a healthy society. Estates, being self-contained, self-managed, and self-sustaining, produce a class of people who are independent from the wider political culture of the nation, and estates are capable of banding together to resist centralised power. From the Barons' revolt against King John, which produced the Magna Carta, to the Virginia gentry of the 13 colonies which led to the American Revolution, it was the estate which enabled men of means to secure their own futures outside of the dictates of grasping bureaucrats and envious idlers. Taken together, Orania's projects, values and achievements matter because they answer many of the problems faced by those of us who dissent from the regime. It has done so by creating what is, in effect, a crowdsourced version of the estate, a largely self-contained economic unit not dependent on regime patronage, which enables those within it to stand against a tyrannical order while continuing to flourish. Orania presents the compelling alternative. It focuses on sovereignty, investment, and its building of a functional community that unites the constituent members as part of a shared mission to preserve their heritage and culture is what makes it great and emulation-worthy. It shows how the estate can be rebuilt anew. It shows how the estate can be crowdsourced, how the loyalty-building opportunities for charity and patronage can be engaged while benefiting one's people and building the future, and how we can leave our names behind us by building a future in which they have a stake.
A very important part of Orania is to celebrate our history and to live our history and to make our culture a living thing. Buy land legally, and on it we must build our own institutions and do our own labour. That is the founding principles of Orania. You'll see something that you won't see in the rest of South Africa. In the rest of South Africa, construction work, all menial labour, everything, and I'm going to say it the way it is, all those ugly, harsh jobs is done by black South Africans. And that is something that you can go see for yourself. In Orania, we do all our own work for a few reasons. One, part of our freedom ideal is to say, well, if we want to make decisions for ourselves politically, we need to be a majority in our own area, and that's important. No one else can say that they built Orania for us, and we are not misusing anyone, we are not exploiting anyone, we are building a future, we're doing it with our own hands. All the hard labor, all the menial labor, from working farms to scrubbing toilets to cleaning houses to tending gardens, everything here is done by us ourselves.
In a way, this is what we're doing with LotusEaters.com too. Instead of being a separate town, of course, we are an internet business, but it allows us to live a certain kind of freedom, which is otherwise unavailable to people working in the corporate world. We are building our own estate, and it allows us to do things other people just don't have the freedom to do. I can't tell you the number of times that I've spoken to someone in the mainstream media, and they have said something along the lines of, I wish I could do what you're doing and say the kind of things that you're saying. It's also why we're able to build such a big tent on the right. We have platformed people as diverse as former Prime Minister Liz Truss all the way to radicals like Steve Laws. We understand that we need to do things radically differently in this country, and building it for ourselves is the most important thing in the entire project, because then it can't be justified to simply take it away from us. It's why we produce our own products to sell, such as Islander magazine, instead of constantly soliciting third-party sponsorships that could be taken away from us. It's a lot of work, but we think it's worth it, and we're tremendously proud of everything that we have accomplished. And on that note, I'd like to quickly thank everyone who has supported us along this journey so far, and all my wonderful staff. Everyone has been doing an incredible job, and I sometimes have to pinch myself to make sure that it's all really real. Anyway, on that note, let's get back to the YouTubers and their conclusions about Orania, which are generally very, very positive.
Listen, I might not agree with the ideologies of the people living in Orania in certain aspect, but I believe that what they've done in here is super impressive, and I feel like other communities within the continent of Africa can embrace these ideas. You know, I've been talking about self-independent, self-sufficient now. I mean, I believe that that's what Kwame Nkrumah's ideology was. And basically, everything is here. These guys don't need to step out of, Orania. They can actually live here and survive.
Outside of the gates of Orania, there's government corruption, the crime figures are sky high, and there's power cuts everywhere. There's people who are out on the streets protesting for change. So it's understandable why people come to Orania, because they feel safe.
It was time to say our goodbyes. You know what? I'm a bit sad we're leaving. Can we come to a deal?
All right.
Approve my application. Can you talk to the people on the panel for me?
Yeah, man, I'll talk to them.
Make an exception for me, please.
We'll take your application, man.
Okay, hopefully. That marks our 24-hour survival in Orania. And honestly, guys, from my experience, this place is very misunderstood. It's not as racist as people make it out to be. Although I do think if the world had segregated communities like this, we wouldn't move forward as a society. But I can respect the hospitality and how hardworking the people of Orania are. So guys, listen, 100,000 likes and I will go back and try apply for a citizenship. But yeah, subscribe if you're new and leave a comment on where else you think I should visit next.
But I believe that if we start, building our own communities, our own way, knowing that, hey, we're gonna make money and use the money that we make within our community to build our community, I believe that the entire Africa will be super great, man.
We've just left Orania, and Siv, I want to know, was it what you expected it to be?
No way. It was a conundrum. It was confusing, many positives, but I think there was a feeling that didn't feel right. And I think that's just a lack of diversity. I think they have everything, the growth, the ethics, the safety, but they just lack diversity and an open-mindedness to others. It's just our way or the highway. But they have every right to do that. It's their place.
So we're gonna end our day here, get some coffee, and it's been really awesome. It's been amazing coming to Orania and just seeing it for myself and experiencing it, especially being Black, Muslim, and I had no issue.
What an absolutely fascinating set of conclusions with phenomenally interesting implications. I particularly like the guy who was saying, well, I mean, they have everything here. They're safe. They're prosperous. They don't have to lock up their bikes. But what they don't have is diversity. Gosh darn it. If only they had diversity as well as all of this, then Orania would be perfect. And it's like, well, yep. I wonder why we can't have both things at once. You'll have to explain that to me some other time, I suppose. Anyway, thanks for joining me, folks, and thank you to Will Tanner for his amazing article in Islander, which started me on this journey. I hadn't really thought about it in this way, and I certainly didn't know about this genre of YouTube video. I had an amazing time producing this video for you. If you would like to support us and help us grow our own estate, Islander 6 is available at the moment. A link will be in the description. It is, of course, produced by us, and everything about it comes to us, and we hope you'll really enjoy it. We put a lot of work into it, and we think you'll get a lot out of it. And I personally get a lot out of each individual issue as it comes to me, because I don't get to see it in advance, which honestly is a good thing because it's a nice surprise. So anyway, a link will be in the description, and I'll see you in the next video, folks. Take care.